Sit your stubborn behind down. Maya Jenkins snapped, her voice cutting through the heavy air as she stared at the terrifying, fearless Korean mafia billionaire who looked ready to snap someone's neck. The billionaire just stared back at her, his icy eyes widening slightly as he wondered where on earth this woman got her absolute audacity from. But to understand how an ordinary girl from Atlanta ended up barking orders at the most dangerous tycoon in Seoul, we have to go back to where the madness all started, exactly 1 hour earlier. The glass shattered with a deafening screech that echoed through the marble-clad lobby of the Grand Palace Hotel in Gangnam. Maya Jenkins didn't even flinch. She just ducked behind a massive gold leaf pillar, her eyes locked on the targets across the room. Oh, hell no. She had not flown 14 hours from Atlanta to Seoul, spent her life savings on a tailored pantsuit, and memorized 3 different dialects of Korean just to get blown up in a hotel lobby. Her eyes darted from the revolving doors to the center of the room, where a man was walking surrounded by 5 massive, stone-faced security guards. That had to be him, Kim Yi-hoon, the ice-cold boss of the Kong Syndicate, a man rumored to control half the shipping lanes in Asia and a good chunk of the underground economy. He looked exactly like a modern-day emperor in a bespoke charcoal suit, his face an unreadable mask of absolute authority. But Maya wasn't looking at his handsome, terrifying face. She was looking at his driver, who was walking 2 paces behind him. The driver's left hand was twitching violently, his fingers clawing at the fabric of his jacket right over his ribs. That is a tactical draw-tell. She knew that twitch. Her cousin Marcus used to do the exact same nervous hand-wring before he got framed by the Shinteo network. Maya didn't think twice. She didn't wait for permission. She broke into a sprint, her heels clicking against the pristine marble floors like gunfire. The security guards immediately noticed her and moved to intercept, their hands reaching inside their jackets. "Stop right there," one of them yelled in Korean. Maya didn't stop. Instead, she used her loudest, most theatrical, and surprisingly fluent Korean voice, cutting through the tense atmosphere like a buzzsaw. "Hey, Terminator, your driver is sweating like a sinner in church, and his hand keeps touching his hip. If you don't tackle him in 3 seconds, your boss is going to need a very expensive funeral." The guards froze for a fraction of a second, shocked by the sheer audacity of this tall, gorgeous Afro-American woman shouting at them in their own language. But Ji-hoon heard her. His dark eyes flicked toward his driver just as the man pulled a suppressed pistol from his waistband. "Move," Yi-hoon roared. The chief security officer tackled the driver into a massive porcelain vase, shattering it into 1,000,000 pieces. Gunfire erupted, a single stray bullet chipping the pillar right above Maya's head. "Oh, you did not just ruin my good hair day," Maya screamed, ducking low as the guards slammed the traitorous driver into the floor, disarming him in a brutal display of martial arts. The lobby fell into a terrifying, breathless silence. Guests were screaming and running for the exits, but the center of the room belonged entirely to Kang Ji-hoon. He adjusted his tie, completely unfazed by the fact that he had almost been assassinated. He turned his slow, calculating gaze toward Maya, who was currently dusting off her knees and inspecting a microscopic smudge on her sleeve. "Who are you?" Ji-hoon asked, his voice like dry ice, low, smooth, and incredibly dangerous. Maya popped her chewing gum, crossed her arms, and looked him dead in the eye. "I'm the girl who just saved your life, honey. And honestly, your security team gets a 1-star review on Yelp. They're completely useless." The chief guard looked ready to execute her on the spot, but Ji-hoon held up a single, gloved hand. "Bring her," he commanded. Maya rolled her eyes so hard she nearly saw her own brain. "Excuse me? Bring her where? I have a dinner reservation and a very strict itinerary." But 2 massive guards grabbed her arms anyway. "Hey, watch the fabric. This is silk blend, you giant gorillas. Are you loving the tension so far? Don't forget to like this video right now and comment your predictions for Maya and Ji-hoon." An hour later, Maya found herself inside a heavily armored SUV winding up the dark, steep roads of Pyeongchang-dong, the most exclusive, heavily fortified mountainous neighborhood in Seoul. "This place makes Beverly Hills look like a trailer park," Maya muttered under her breath, staring out the window at the massive concrete walls and security cameras lining the streets. The vehicle pulled through a set of iron gates that looked thick enough to withstand a missile strike, entering the courtyard of a sprawling, hypermodern fortress. They dragged her through the grand entrance, but Maya wasn't intimidated. She was furious. Her feet hurt, she was hungry, and these mafia goons were ruining her vibe. The guards led her down a long, polished hallway lined with traditional Korean ink paintings. When they turned a corner, Maya purposefully slowed her pace, pretending to trip over her own heels. "Oops, clumsy me," she fake screamed, breaking away from the guard's grip. She darted down a side corridor, looking for an exit or a place to hide. Instead, she pushed open a heavy wooden door and froze. The room was a private pavilion, smelling faintly of cedar and blood. Sitting on a low stool under a single light fixture was Kang Ji-hoon. His charcoal jacket was thrown on the floor, his white dress shirt torn open and soaked in crimson. He was holding a needle and thread, attempting to sew up a deep, jagged knife wound on his forearm. His jaw was clenched so tightly the muscles in his neck were straining, sweat pouring down his pale face. The terrifying, untouchable mafia boss looked completely human, isolated, and in agonizing pain. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The humor melted away, replaced by an overwhelming wave of empathy. "Oh my God," she whispered. Ji-hoon's head snapped up, his eyes flashing with murderous rage as he reached for a knife on the table. "Ow!" he snarled. But Maya didn't run. She walked right up to him, snatched the needle out of his bloody hands, and pushed him back onto the stool. "Sit your stubborn behind down," she snapped, her maternal, protective instincts completely taking over. "You are doing a terrible job, and you're going to give yourself an infection." Ji-hoon was too shocked to speak. He watched in absolute silence as this strange American woman poured antiseptic over his wound without warning. He gasped, his fist clenching, but he didn't pull away. Maya worked quickly, her hands steady from years of handling corporate security emergencies. "Why didn't you let your doctors do this?" she asked softly, her voice losing its sarcastic edge. "Because in my world, showing blood means showing weakness," Ji-hoon muttered, staring at her face, which was inches from his. "If my enemies know I am hurt, they strike." Maya tied off the final knot with a gentle tug. "Well, your secret is safe with me, Batman. But seriously, your coffee over there smells like battery acid, and your life choices are stressful." Ji-hoon looked down at his perfectly stitched arm, then up at Maya's smirk. A look of profound intrigue crossed his face. "You are either the bravest woman in Korea or the stupidest," he murmured. Maya picked up a towel, wiped her hands, and flashed a brilliant smile. "Why not both, handsome? Now, let's go have that chat your gorillas promised me." This is just the beginning of their wild ride. Make sure you are subscribed to Afro-Korean Diaries by Elle so you don't miss the next batch of this incredible story. Drop a comment below with your favorite Maya quote so far. Maya followed Ji-hoon into his private study, which looked like a cross between a high-tech military bunker and a luxury museum. The walls were lined with ancient Korean armor, but the desk was covered in 3 massive computer monitors displaying live security feeds and encrypted data streams. Ji-hoon sat behind the desk, instantly slipping his cold, untouchable mafia persona back on like a shield. He leaned forward, resting his chin on his steepled fingers, his dark eyes boring into her soul. "Who sent you, Maya Jenkins?" he demanded, his voice dropping an octave. "Don't lie to me. My people ran your passport. You're a corporate investigator from America. Why are you tracking my targets?" Maya didn't even sit in the chair he offered. Instead, she began pacing around the room, picking up a priceless Joseon-era porcelain vase and inspecting the bottom. "Put that down." Ji-hoon snipped. Maya ignored him, placing it back with a loud thud. "Listen here, boss man. Nobody sent me. I sent my damn self," she shouted, her voice thick with raw emotion. 2 months ago, my little cousin Marcus, the sweetest kid you'll ever meet, a total tech geek, got recruited for a dummy data job in Seoul. He thought he was coding for a logistics firm. Turns out, it was a front for a global smuggling ring run by a maniac named Shin Tae-oh. When the authorities caught on, Tae-oh planted encrypted files on Marcus's personal laptop and left him to take the fall. He is facing 20 years in a maximum security prison for a crime he didn't commit. I am here to clear his name, and my intelligence led me straight to that hotel lobby because Teo wanted you dead today. Ji-hoon's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed. Shin Teo is a parasite, he muttered coldly. He has been trying to encroach on my shipping yards for a year. Today was his third assassination attempt. Maya slammed her hands down on his desk, leaning in so close she could smell his expensive cologne. Exactly. We have the same enemy. You want to keep your empire, and I want my cousin back home in Atlanta eating his mama's cooking. You have the muscle and the power, but clearly your internal security is trash. You didn't even notice your own driver was bought out. You need me. I can read people. I can spot a lie from a mile away, and I am completely invisible to Teo's network. Ji-hoon stared at her, an internal war raging behind his eyes. He wasn't used to anyone raising their voice at him, let alone a woman who insulted his security and handled his wounds in the same hour. He picked up a freshly brewed cup of espresso, took a sip, and grimaced slightly. Maya noticed and snorted. See, even you think your coffee tastes like battery acid. And another thing, your Korean phrasing earlier when you told your guards to lock down the hotel. You use an archaic corporate dialect. Nobody talks like that anymore. Grandpa, you sound like a 1990s historical drama. If you want to blend into the modern tech world where Teo operates, you need to update your vocabulary. For the first time since she met him, a tiny, almost imperceptible twitch appeared at the corner of Ji-hoon's mouth. Was that a smile? Oh my God, the robot has feelings. Maya thought, internally cheering. Ji-hoon set his cup down with a soft click. You are incredibly irritating, Maya Jenkins. But you're also correct. My organization has a leak. A deep one. If I look for it myself, the mole will hide. If you do it under the guise of my personal translator and security consultant, they won't suspect a thing. I will give you access to our database. And in return, if we destroy Shin Teo, my lawyers will ensure your cousin Marcus walks out of prison a free man. Do we have a deal? Maya smirked, crossing her arms over her chest. Only if you buy me a decent cup of coffee tomorrow morning. Deal, she exclaimed. Are you guys loving this partnership? I know I am. If you want to see Maya completely take over this mafia mansion, make sure to like this video, comment below if you think Ji-hoon can be trusted, and subscribe to Afro-Korean Diaries by Elle right now. Over the next 48 hours, Maya completely turned the Kong Syndicate mansion upside down. The atmosphere in the fortress shifted from a cold, silent prison to something resembling a chaotic reality show. She refused to wear the boring black suits the security team offered her, opting instead for a bright yellow blazer she bought at a boutique in Hongdae. She spent her mornings walking through the corridors, greeting the terrifying, scarred bodyguards with a loud, cheerful, "Good morning, sunshine," or telling them their ties were crooked. At first, they looked ready to throw her off the mountain, but within 2 days, they were secretly straightening their posture whenever they heard her heels clicking down the hall. Ji-hoon watched her transformation of his home with absolute fascination from his surveillance monitors. She was like a whirlwind of color and energy in his gray, violent world. But she wasn't just playing around. Maya was working overlapping 12-hour shifts, digging through thousands of digital shipping manifests and employee background checks. On the third night, around midnight, Maya was pacing the traditional stone courtyard of the mansion, trying to clear her head. The mountain air was freezing, and she wrapped her silk jacket tightly around herself. Suddenly, she heard hushed, urgent voices coming from the shadow of the traditional wooden pavilion. She ducked behind a massive stone lantern, holding her breath. "It's set for tonight," a man whispered in a harsh, low Korean dialect. "The boss thinks the American girl is the distraction, but we have the security codes for the Western Gate. Shin Tao's strike team is already at the base of the mountain. Clean execution, no survivors." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. Oh, hell no. The mole wasn't just a digital hacker. It was an entire armed faction within Ji-hoon's personal guard. She pulled out her phone to text Ji-hoon, but before her thumb could hit the screen, a heavy boot crunched on the gravel behind her. Well, look what we have here, a voice sneered. Maya snapped her head around to see three massive operatives wearing the Kong Syndicate uniform. But their eyes were completely devoid of loyalty. They drew their weapons, the silver barrels gleaming in the moonlight. Maya didn't panic. She let out a loud, dramatic sigh. "Look, fellas, I'm going to give you one chance to put those toys away. This silk jacket is dry clean only. If you get a single drop of blood or dirt on it, I swear to you, I will find your mothers and tell them exactly how disappointment feels." The guards blinked in utter confusion. Is this woman insane? One of them lunged forward to grab her, but Maya was already moving. She used her agile, defensive martial arts training, dropping low to sweep his legs out from under him. He crashed into the gravel with a painful groan. The second guard fired, the gunshot echoing through the quiet mountain night. Maya dodged behind the heavy stone lantern just in time, chips of rock flying everywhere. "You missed, stormtrooper," she screamed, grabbing a heavy decorative wooden staff from the pavilion wall and swinging it with full force right into the third guard's jaw. The courtyard erupted into absolute chaos as alarms began to blare across the entire estate. Maya was fighting for her life, using every bit of environmental improvisation she could find, shouting hilarious insults with every strike. The heavy wooden staff shattered across the second guard's shoulder with a resounding crack. Maya spun on her heel, her breath catching in her throat as the first guard she had swept scrambled back to his feet, a vicious combat knife flashing in the moonlight. "Oh, so we're playing with cutlery now? That is cheating, you oversized bully," she screamed, throwing her ruined staff at his face and diving sideways onto the gravel. The courtyard doors burst open with a thunderous bang. Ji-hoon charged into the moonlight, his face contorted in a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. He didn't even look like a businessman anymore. He looked like a demon unleashed. In a blur of lethal, calculated motion, he intercepted the knife-wielding guard, disarming him with a sickening crunch of bone and slamming him face first into the stone courtyard. His personal security team flooded the area, swarming the remaining traitors and dragging them to the ground in seconds. Ji-hoon sprinted over to Maya, his hands shaking slightly as he grabbed her shoulders and pulled her up. "Are you hurt? Speak to me. Where are you bleeding?" he demanded, his voice laced with an intensity that startled her. Maya blinked, coughing slightly from the dust, and pointed a trembling finger at her sleeve. "Look at this. There's a tear right on the seam. Do you know how hard it is to find a yellow blazer that fits my shoulders and soul? I am traumatized, Ji-hoon. Absolutely traumatized." Ji-hoon let out a ragged, breathless laugh, burying his face in his hands for a brief second before pulling his cold mask back on. He turned to his chief security officer, his eyes like daggers. "Lock down the perimeter. Interrogate everyone who is on duty at the western gate. No one leaves this mountain alive if they are involved." The estate was cast into a state of hyper-alert, suffocating tension over the next hour. Maya was escorted back to the high-tech war room, her adrenaline finally fading, leaving her exhausted and aching. She sat on a leather sofa, ice pack pressed to her shoulder, waiting for Ji-hoon to return. When the door slid open, however, Ji-hoon didn't look relieved. He looked frozen. Behind him walked two tech analysts, their faces pale, holding a tablet, displaying a stream of encrypted data. Ji-hoon walked slowly up to Maya, his dark eyes fixed on her with a terrifying, unreadable expression. "Maya, stand up," he said quietly. Maya frowned, tossing the ice pack aside. "What's wrong with you? We caught the guys. We know the Western Gate was compromised." Ji-hoon turned the tablet toward her. On the screen was a decrypted financial ledger showing 3 massive wire transfers from an offshore account owned by Shin Tae-oh. The recipient account was registered under an offshore shell company, but the primary authorized signature at the bottom was written in clear, digital print: Maya Jenkins. Appended to the ledger were high-resolution surveillance photos of Maya standing in the Grand Palace Hotel lobby hours before the assassination attempt, looking directly at Shin Tae-oh's operatives. "My analysts intercepted this transmission from Tae-oh's network 5 minutes ago," Ji-hoon said, his voice dropping into a dangerous, ice-cold register. It shows you were paid $500,000 to orchestrate the hotel lobby incident, gain my trust, and infiltrate my estate to disable the Western Gate security codes. Maya stared at the screen, her stomach dropping into a bottomless pit of horror. Are you out of your minds? She shouted, her voice cracking with raw emotion. This is fake. It's a setup. I don't even know what an offshore account looks like. I have $11 in my checking account right now. Ji-hoon, look at me. You know me. I stitched your damn arm. Ji-hoon didn't look at her. He turned his back, his jaw clenching so hard a vein throbbed on his temple. Take her to the secure isolation holding room in the basement, he commanded his guards. Strip her of her phone, her communication gear, and lock the door. No, you coward. Look at me. Maya screamed as two massive guards grabbed her arms, dragging her toward the heavy steel elevator. You are letting him win. Shin Tae-oh is playing you like a fiddle, you arrogant mafia jerk. Release me. Can you believe this betrayal? Is Maya really a double agent? Or is Shin Tae-oh the ultimate puppet master? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to Afro-Korean Diaries by L, like this video, and comment your theories right now. The isolation room in the basement was entirely made of reinforced concrete, lit by a single, buzzing fluorescent tube. There was nothing but a steel chair and a heavy, magnetic locking door. Maya paced the floor like a caged tigress, her mind racing, tears of sheer frustration and anger spilling down her cheeks. She had risked everything for Marcus, and now she was going to die in a hole because a brooding Korean gangster couldn't handle a little bit of fake paperwork. Nearly 2 hours passed before the heavy magnetic lock clicked, and the steel door swung open. Ji-hoon walked in alone, locking the door behind him. He didn't have his jacket on, and his white shirt was wrinkled. He stood by the door, crossing his arms, staring at her in silence. Maya didn't waste a second. She marched right up to him, stopping inches from his chest, her eyes blazing. You absolute coward, she shouted, poking him hard in his muscular chest with her finger. You sit up there in your giant, lonely mountain fortress, playing God, pretending you're untouchable. But the truth is, you are terrified. You're so scared of someone actually caring about you, or showing you real loyalty, that the second a piece of fake data shows up, you run right back into your little shell. You'd rather believe everyone is a traitor than admit that you need help. Marcus is an innocent kid, and I am an innocent woman. And you threw me in a cage because you're too much of a punk to trust your own eyes. Maya's voice broke on the last word, a sob escaping her throat. She turned her back to him, wiping her face furiously, refusing to let him see her completely break down. Ji-hoon stood perfectly still, the echo of her shouting ringing off the concrete walls. The silence stretched for 5, 10, 15 seconds. Then, slowly, he took a step forward. He reached out, his large, warm hand gently resting on her uninjured shoulder, turning her around to face him. His dark eyes were no longer cold. They were filled with a profound, aching vulnerability. Maya, listen to me, he whispered, his voice incredibly soft. Look at me. Maya looked up, her breath hitching. I know the files are fake, he said. Maya blinked, her jaw dropping. You what? Then why the hell am I down here in Gitmo, Ji-hoon? Explain yourself before I lose my mind. Because 3 of my top lieutenants were in the war room when those files arrived, Ji-hoon explained, his grip on her shoulder tightening slightly. If I had defended you, they would have realized I suspected them. They would have triggered the secondary attack plan and escaped. I had to make them believe I fell for the trap. I locked you down here to keep you safe from them. While you were yelling at me, my loyal strike teams were already moving. Maya stared at him, her brain short-circuiting from the sudden shift in reality. Oh, she muttered, her voice incredibly small. Well, you still could have given me a heads up, Batman. My heart rate is through the roof. Ji-hoon's lips twitched into a genuine, beautiful smile, the warmth completely transforming his rugged face. You wouldn't have been convincing if you weren't genuinely angry, he murmured, his thumb lightly brushing against her cheek to wipe away a stray tear. The steel door of the isolation room didn't just open 5 minutes later. It practically flew off its hinges as Ji-hoon's chief intelligence officer sprinted in, looking completely out of breath. Boss, It's done. The trap snapped perfectly, he shouted, holding up a secure tactical radio. Ji-hoon's face instantly shifted back into dominant boss mode. He stepped out of the isolation cell with Maya right at his heels, her yellow blazer looking slightly wrinkled, but her spirit fully recharged. What is the status? Ji-hoon demanded as they rode the elevator back up to the high-tech war room. The intelligence officer wiped sweat from his forehead. The moment you locked Miss Jenkins in the basement, Lieutenant Park and Lieutenant Choi left the compound, believing they had successfully discredited her. They drove straight to Shin Tao's primary tech hub at the Incheon shipping yard to collect their final payout. Our tracking units followed their encrypted satellite signals directly to the source. The minute they walked into Tao's private office, our primary strike teams moved in. Maya shoved her way to the front of the console, her eyes wide as the monitors flickered to life, showing live feed footage from the Incheon shipping yards. Oh, look at that. Caught them red-handed. She cheered, clapping her hands together dramatically. I knew those two had shady vibes. They wouldn't even look me in the eye when I offered them donuts yesterday. The screen showed a chaotic, fast-paced tactical operation. Ji-hoon's loyal forces, clad in tactical gear, had completely surrounded the industrial office. Glass shattered, flashbangs went off in a blinding burst of light, and within seconds, Shin Tao's personal security force was dismantled and forced onto their knees. But the real magic was happening on the digital side. The tech analysts in Ji-hoon's war room were typing furiously, their fingers flying across the keyboards like classical pianists. We have bypassed Tao's primary firewall, using the decryption keys Miss Jenkins isolated from the garden attacker's phones. The head analyst announced triumphantly. We are downloading his entire hidden database right now. Ji-hoon looked over at Maya, a look of immense respect in his dark eyes. Extract everything related to the legal framing of Marcus Jenkins, he ordered coldly. Feed the unedited, raw data streams directly to the international prosecutors and the Ministry of Justice. Maya leaned over the analyst's shoulder, her heart pounding with an intensity she had never felt before. Come on, baby, find it, she whispered, her hands clenched into tight fists. Suddenly, a massive file directory highlighted in bright red popped up on the center screen. Project Marcus/frame, setup, 02. We have it, the analyst shouted. It contains the original source codes, the digital signatures of Shin Tao's personal hackers, and the exact timestamps showing the files were planted remotely onto Marcus Jenkins' laptop while he was asleep in his apartment. It completely obliterates the prosecution's case. It's an absolute exoneration. Maya let out a loud, emotional sob, covering her mouth with her hands as tears of pure, unadulterated joy poured down her face. She collapsed back onto the leather sofa, her shoulders shaking. He's safe, she whispered to herself. My baby cousin is coming home. Ji-hoon walked over to her, completely ignoring the room full of analysts and guards who were watching him. He knelt down in front of her, his expression softer than anyone in the Kong Syndicate had ever seen it. He handed her a clean silk handkerchief. It is over, Maya, he said softly, his voice full of genuine emotion. The legal transmission has been verified by the ministry. The international warrant against your cousin will be officially dismissed within the hour. He is completely free. Maya wiped her face, sniffed loudly, and then unexpectedly threw her arms around Ji-hoon's neck, pulling him into a fierce, breathless hug. Thank you, she whispered into his ear. Thank you for trusting me. Ji-hoon froze for a fraction of a second. He was a man who had not been hugged since he was a child. But then, slowly, his strong arms wrapped around her waist, holding her close against his chest. The war room was silent, the guards suddenly finding the ceiling tiles incredibly fascinating to look at. Maya pulled back, clearing her throat, and tried to regain her classic comedic composure. All right, let's not get mushy, boss man. You still owe me a new jacket and some decent food. If I have to eat another piece of dried seaweed, I'm going to lose my mind. Ji-hoon laughed out loud, a rich, deep sound that filled the room and made his guards double-check if they were dreaming. Whatever you want, Maya, he murmured, his eyes locked onto hers with a look that made her stomach do backflips. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Marcus is free and Shin Tae-oh is completely ruined. If you are crying tears of joy for Maya right now, smash that like button, hit subscribe to Afro-Korean Diaries by L, and leave a comment down below with your absolute favorite part of this takedown. The next morning, the sun rose over the majestic peaks of Pyeongchang-dong, painting the sky in brilliant shades of pink, orange, and gold. The heavy, oppressive atmosphere that had hung over the Kong Syndicate fortress for years was completely gone. The guards at the main gate were standing up straight, but they weren't scowling anymore. One of them was even humming a popular song Maya had been playing on her phone the day before. Inside the main pavilion, Maya stood by the grand glass doors, her large suitcase resting by her side. She was wearing her freshly mended yellow blazer, her hair perfectly styled, looking every bit the fierce, independent woman who had walked into Seoul a week ago. Her mission was accomplished. Marcus was safe, his name cleared, and her flight back to Atlanta was scheduled for 3 o'clock that afternoon. She looked out at the beautiful traditional courtyard, a strange, heavy sadness tugging at her chest. She was happy to go home, but for some reason, the thought of leaving this massive, chaotic fortress and its brooding, handsome boss felt like a physical ache in her heart. Suddenly, the heavy wooden doors of the pavilion opened, and Ji-hoon walked out into the morning sunlight. He wasn't wearing his standard, intimidating black tie. He was dressed casually in a soft black cashmere sweater, his dark hair falling slightly over his forehead. He looked younger, relaxed, and incredibly handsome. In his hands, he carried a single, steaming white porcelain cup. He walked up to Maya, stopping just a foot away, and held the cup out to her. Maya frowned, looking down at the liquid suspicious. "What's this?" "Another cup of battery acid to send me on my way, Batman," she joked, trying to hide the emotion in her voice. Ji-hoon smiled, his eyes twinkling with warmth. "Taste it first," he murmured. Maya took the cup, took a cautious, tiny sip, and her eyes instantly went wide. It was rich, creamy, perfectly sweet, with a distinct hint of hazelnut and vanilla. It was, without a doubt, the most perfect cup of coffee she had ever tasted in her entire life. "Oh my God," she gasped, taking another huge gulp. "This is amazing. Where did you get this? Did you kidnap a barista from Starbucks in the middle of the night?" Ji-hoon rubbed the back of his neck, a slight, attractive flush appearing on his cheekbones. "I stayed up until 3 in the morning practicing," he admitted softly. "I watched tutorial videos online and adjusted the grind size and temperature. You said my coffee was unacceptable, and I want to make sure your last memory of my home was a good one." Maya stared at him, her heart completely melting. The Mafia King of Seoul had stayed up all night learning how to brew a perfect hazelnut latte just to make her smile. She set the cup down on a nearby ledge, stepped forward, and looked him dead in the eye, her sarcastic exterior completely dropping away. "You are really something else, Kong Ji-hoon," she whispered. Ji-hoon stepped closer, his hand reaching out to gently touch the edge of her collar. "Don't go, Maya," he said, his voice dropping into a low, intense plea that vibrated right through her soul. "Don't go back to Atlanta, Maya," Ji-hoon repeated, his dark eyes burning with an intense, raw honesty that made her breath catch completely in her throat. "My empire is changing. Shin Tae-oh is gone, and I am systematically dismantling the illegal factions of my organization to transition into legitimate global logistics and international tech security. I am building something new, something clean, but I cannot do it alone. I need someone who isn't afraid to look me in the eye and tell me when I'm being a fool. I need someone with unmatched observation skills, a fierce heart, and someone who brings color into this dark house. I want you to stay in Seoul as my official chief of global security and as my partner, personally and professionally." Maya stared at him, her mouth slightly open, her mind completely short-circuiting. "Hold on a minute, Batman," she finally exclaimed, her classic comedic defense mechanism kicking back in to save her from crying. "Are you hiring me? Or are you asking me out on a date? Because my corporate consulting fee is extremely high, But my dating fee requires a lot more of these hazelnut lattes and some serious fine dining. Ji-hoon let out another rich, genuine laugh, his hand sliding down from her collar to gently wrap around her fingers, intertwining them perfectly. "Why not both, Maya?" he whispered, stepping even closer until there was absolutely no space left between them. "I am offering you a lifetime contract, full executive benefits, excellent salary, and a permanent reservation at the best restaurants in the city." Maya looked down at their joined hands, her heart pounding a frantic, happy rhythm against her ribs. She thought about her life back in Atlanta, safe, predictable, and incredibly boring. Then she looked at this magnificent, terrifying, yet deeply vulnerable man standing in front of her, a man who had stayed up all night just to learn how to brew her favorite coffee. She thought about the chaos, the danger, the laughter, and the profound connection they had forged in just one short week. "Well," she muttered, a massive, brilliant smile breaking across her face as she looked back up into his eyes. "I suppose Marcus is safe, and my apartment lease is month to month anyway. And honestly, your security guards still desperately need my help with their fashion choices and social skills. Someone has to teach these giant gorillas how to smile. I guess I can stay a little longer. But under one condition, boss man." Ji-hoon smiled down at her, his eyes full of absolute triumph and relief. "Name it," he murmured. "You are paying for my dry cleaning bill for this yellow blazer, and you are officially banning dried seaweed from the breakfast menu." Maya shouted dramatically. "Is a deal, Maya Jenkins," Ji-hoon whispered. And then, without another word, he leaned down and pressed his lips firmly against hers. The kiss was warm, deep, and filled with a lingering passion that completely erased the lingering chill of the mountain morning. Maya melted into him, her arms wrapping tightly around his neck as the sun fully broke over the horizon, bathing the entire Pyeongchangdong fortress in a beautiful, radiant golden light. A few feet away, the chief security officer peeked through the pavilion window, saw the embrace, and quickly turned around, clearing his throat loudly and waving his hands at the other guards to look away. "Nothing to see here. Boys, move along," he ordered in a harsh whisper, but a massive smirk was plastered across his face. The Ice King had finally found his queen, and the mansion was finally breathing new life. A month later, the atmosphere in the Kong Syndicate, now officially rebranded as Kong Global Logistics, was completely transformed. The hypermodern war room was still buzzing with high-tech monitors and global data feeds. But there was a brand new addition to the executive suite. Right next to Ji-hoon's massive mahogany desk sat a matching, stylish white desk covered in colorful stationery, a framed photo of a smiling Marcus Jenkins holding up his college diploma, and a massive, top-of-the-line espresso machine. Maya strolled into the office, wearing a stunning, tailored emerald green pantsuit that practically screamed power and confidence. She carried 2 fresh pastries, tossing one directly onto Ji-hoon's desk. "Morning, CEO." She cheered, popping a piece of croissant into her mouth. Ji-hoon looked up from his financial tablets, his face instantly softening into a warm, relaxed smile that he now wore every single day. "Good morning, Chief Jenkins," he replied, his English pronunciation practically flawless now after weeks of practice. "Did you review the new shipping security protocols for the Incheon port?" "I did. And I already caught 3 major vulnerabilities in the digital firewall that your high-priced tech team missed," Maya said proudly, leaning over his desk and tapping his nose playfully. "I told you. You're lucky you have me around." "I am well aware of how lucky I am," Ji-hoon murmured, reaching up to grab her hand and pulling her down into a quick, sweet kiss. Suddenly, the office door slid open and the chief security officer walked in, holding a tablet. "Boss, Chief, we have a minor issue at the Southern Distribution Center." A rival shipping crew left a suspicious package at the gate. Maya's eyes lit up, her sarcastic, investigative instincts immediately kicking into overdrive. "Oh, really? Someone is trying to test us on a Tuesday morning? How rude," she exclaimed, grabbing her emerald jacket and straightening her shoulders. "Come on, Batman. Let's go show these local boys how we handle security in a new era." Ji-hoon stood up, adjusting his cuffs, his dark eyes flashing with that familiar, commanding brilliance. But this time, it was perfectly balanced by the joy standing right beside him. "Lead the way, Maya," he said. They walked out of the office side by side, their heels clicking in perfect unison against the polished floor, ready to face whatever storms the world threw at them, completely unstoppable together. Wow, what an absolutely incredible journey for Maya and Ji-hoon. From a chaotic encounter in a hotel lobby to completely redefining a global empire through trust, humor, and pure love. Thank you so much for watching this complete story on Afro-Korean Diaries by Elle. If Maya's hilarious wit and Ji-hoon's deep devotion kept you glued to your screen until the very last second, please show us some love. Smash that like icon right now. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss another explosive diary entry, and drop a comment down below telling us your absolute favorite scene. Don't forget to tell us where you're watching from in the world. We love reading your comments. Until next time, keep shining, keep smiling, and we will see you in the next diary entry.